In this video, I'm going to show you 4 super simple ways that will completely transform your effectiveness while you're working remotely. Like many of you, I spend my entire working days going from meeting to meeting to meeting. Only I ain't going anywhere. I'm sat in the same chair and I'm looking at the same screen, and I go from Zoom to Teams to Hangout the whole day long. Now, I don't know about you, but I'm starting to wonder about the effectiveness of these meetings. But it ain't about the technology, it's about the whole experience. And what occurred to me as a technologist is the reason this experience is as rubbish as it is today is simply because we humans haven't done 4 really super simple things. And I'm going to tell you exactly what they are, and it's going to transform not just your working experience, it's going to transform the working experience of everybody you work with. So let's start with the network, which is the single most important factor in all of this. Your network connection, your broadband connection, is the only thing that keeps you connected to work. It is the single pipeline through which you get to deliver all of the value that you have to offer your organization. It's called the information superhighway for a reason, by the way, because it needs to be super. And if your connection is not super, this is the first thing that you need to do. Right now, I want you to go and pick up the phone, grab that phone. I want you to dial your ISP and you say, "Hello, Mr. ISP, Mrs. ISP, I want you to sell me the fastest connection you have on offer." That's the easiest thing that you can do right now. Now, if you want to change your ISP, that's fine too. Go to your favorite broadband speed checker website, look what's available, buy the best you can get. This is as important to you as your company car used to be, or as your train season ticket, your favorite seat on that commuter train on the 7:30 into London. And while we're talking about networks, let me tell you the cheapest, most effective thing you could do right now that will completely change your work experience. See this? This is a $10 cable. This $10 cable will give you a 50 times speed increase on your network if you're sat at home using Wi-Fi. Because Wi-Fi, let's face it, is crap. Wi-Fi is basically magic, right? It's operated by technology pixies who basically get distracted or disturbed if somebody turns the microwave on, if the dog stands in front of the router, if the kids come home from school. Stop it. Go and buy a $10 cable. You can run them up to 100 meters. I don't care if it runs through your house. Plug it into the hole in the back of your router and plug it into the equivalent hole in the back of your computer, and you're done. 50 times speed increase. No more dropping out, no more, "Oh, hang on a minute, I'm gonna have to turn my video off because the connection's a bit dodgy." Sort it out. $10, it's yours. So let's talk about sound. This is actually the second biggest challenge you're going to face when you're trying to make your video calls amazing. But it's not a technology problem per se, it's actually a physics problem. Let's take a look at why. You see your laptop, your computer, you see those tiny little speakers that you've got in your computer? You see the tiny little hole that's actually your microphone? Do you see how close they are together? What this device has to do when you're talking is figure out what's the difference between you talking, in which case I need to transmit that to the rest of the group, and the group talking, in which case I need to not transmit that. That's why you have those stupid echo cycles on your calls. It's why you have those stupid conversations. "Oh, would you just put your mic on mute? If you're not talking, could everybody put their mics on mute?" There's a really simple way to fix this. Number one is don't use the crappy speakers and microphone in your laptop. There's a number of things that you can do which will fundamentally change this. The first, and my favorite, if you want the convenience of not having to wear a headset, is pick up one of these. This is my favorite ever gadget. This is the Jabra 510 speakerphone. It's a USB device. You plug it in. The best thing about this, you see this big speaker here right now? That's a big speaker. What you can't see is what's called a microphone array. Now, a microphone array is basically a posh way of saying several microphones that do a great job of differentiating the difference between you speaking and the group being transmitted, so it gets rid of the echo. The other benefit that devices like this have is they have a series of buttons, so you've got a mute button right there if you need it. Really, really handy if you don't want the hassle of wearing a headset. Now let's talk about headsets, because headsets are actually really, really important, especially if, like me, some of you are getting on in age, starting to lose your hearing. I know lots of people who jack the volume right up on those tinny little speakers in a laptop, and they're the worst culprits for echo. You can buy these, again, it's another $10 solution. You stick them on and you've got instant audio. All right, you look a bit like, "Hello, hello, Rosemary, the telephone operator." It doesn't matter though, you'll have amazing audio. You'll get rid of the problem of echo and you'll make that experience better for everybody on your call. So now let's talk about how we improve your image. Back in the 1970s, some psychology professor, a guy called Albert Mehrabian, came up with this incredible research that basically showed when we communicate with each other, we actually infer different levels of communication from different aspects of how we interact. What he concluded is only 7% of the understanding of the communication comes from the actual words that I use. 38% comes from the tonality, the way in which I express those words. A whopping 55% comes from my body language, how you interpret my language. That is what makes complete communication. Now, look, that was the 1970s. A lot of water has passed under the bridge and people have called BS on those numbers, but you know it to be innately true. The numbers may be different, but you know that communication is better when you can hear well and when you can see the people that you're communicating with as good as possible. Now, we live in a world where we should make this the next best thing to being there. It could be as good as you can get with just a few simple changes. Now, the first thing, again, we've got another challenge. The challenge is your device. See this tiny little thing here? That's a epoxy webcam. That's a webcam that the designer of this laptop put in and probably cost them less than $10 because they wanted to stick it in there just so you've got basic camera capability. That's okay, but it's not okay if you want to be seen and you want to be able to communicate effectively with your team. So the next thing you've got to do is you've got to go and get a decent webcam. This is my favorite one. This is a Logitech C920. They're back in stock, people. Oh my God. So you can pick one of these up. They're a bit pricey. They're about 80 to 90 quid. That would be 80 to 90 dollars, unfortunately, or fortunately for you if you live in the States. And this device is fantastic. Full HD, full 30 frames per second will completely transform how you look. Better yet, because it's an external device, you get to put it somewhere that looks a bit better for you. So we all know the classic problems with webcams based in your laptop is they're looking, that's the worst possible angle for anybody, right? And don't be that guy, please God, don't be that guy who sits on the couch, lay back with your laptop there so that camera is just not a good look for anybody, right? That's straight into the mute bin of life, right? Just don't do that. So pick up this camera, and if you want to, also pick up one of these small little tripods, because what you really want to do is you want to be able to get this camera at eye level. You want to be able to make sure that it's looking you in the eye as if it were another person, because technically it is the other person. Really, really simple things. If you can do this, you will fundamentally improve your image, see how you appear, and more importantly, you'll improve your communication with the rest of your team. So we're on the home stretch now. Let me tell you the final thing you need to do to completely transform your video calls. And this is often the most overlooked out of all the things that I've talked about. And it's as simple as turning on a light bulb. And it is exactly that, right? It's about thinking about the lighting when you go into your video call. Because what happens for most of us is we're sat there, right? We're working away at our desks, and then we jump into that Zoom call, that Teams call, whatever it might be, and we forget, right, that we're probably sat behind some really bright window. We're sitting there in silhouette form, like we're the mystery villain on some film. You know, yes, I am actually guilty of perpetuating several poorly lit video calls. Don't be that person. It's really simple. Go and grab a light. You might have one on your bedside cabinet. You might go and buy a special one. My favorite is the Elgato Keylight range. Any of those are great. The Keylight Air is fantastic because it's small and compact and it'll sit on your desk. Get that light behind your camera. You want it to be a diffused light. You don't want a harsh light, right? That's bad news. You want a diffused light that you can control the brightness and dial in a brightness so that they can see you. We want to see you. That's the point of video, is to be seen and to see everybody else. That's the final thing you need to do. If you can do that, if you can sort your network out, if you can fix your audio, you can create a great image with a camera and a light, you're done, right? You have transformed your ability not just to be seen in the world of work, but you've completely transformed your effectiveness in how you collaborate with every single one of your team, every single one of your organization. So there you go, 4 super simple things anybody can do to completely transform the effectiveness of their video calls while working remote. Now, I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, hang on a minute, Dave, you said super simple, you did not say super expensive. And I get that I've just laid out, it's probably 300 to 500 quid, or $300 to $500 worth of equipment right in front of you. But I want you to think about this one thing. Pre-pandemic, how much did you use to spend on your company car? What was a new set of tyres for your company car cost? How much was that new suit, that power suit that you used to walk in, give you that special superpower when you go into an important meeting? How much did you spend on the upgrade to your season ticket so you always got a bloody seat? This is the same stuff, right? That stuff that you used to buy was to give you an edge, to give you the status that you wanted to improve your performance in your world of work. This is exactly the same principle, and you've got to think about it in the same way. So if you're sitting there cheaping out on a network connection on your broadband provider, or you haven't got an external camera, or you haven't thought about the sound, or you haven't got the light fixed, then you're basically saying, I don't care about how I present myself at work. I don't care about how effective I am at work. Now, I get that's harsh, but the reality is we're going to be working remotely for a long time. And even when we go back into the office, the benefit of working remotely is too good to miss. So if you can do these things, if you can do these 4 super simple things, you sort your network out, you sort your audio out, you sort your image out with a camera and some decent lighting, I'm telling you, you're set to be as good as you possibly can be, communicating with your team, communicating with your organization and your customers, doubling, transforming your effectiveness as an individual. What's not to like about that?